The Rosedale Drive-In had been rotting in the sun for 11 years when Marcus Webb bought it at a county auction for $4,000. He was 43, freshly divorced, and struggling with the suffocating silence of an empty house. He bought the crumbling property to reclaim a piece of his childhood, hoping to reopen the place his father had taken him every summer. When he finally cracked the rusted padlock on the cinder block projection booth, he found the old projector in perfectly maintained working order. Sitting right next to it was a single film canister marked with a piece of faded masking tape that read simply, "Last." Marcus assumed he was looking at harmless trash, an orphaned print left behind by a forgotten distributor. That assumption created a blind spot, leaving an unanswered question sitting on the workbench, waiting to be pulled. 3 weeks later, the night before opening, he threaded the reel into the machine. He was alone in the empty lot, driven by the specific kind of lonely curiosity that makes a person do strange things when no one else is watching. The film rolled without a title card, showing a static shot of the drive-in lot from the exact angle of the projection booth. The impossible part was the content. The lot was filled with dozens of vintage American sedans from decades ago, and every single one of them was completely empty. The camera then drifted toward the concession stand, lingering on a figure standing at the counter. When it turned around, it had no face, just smooth skin like a mannequin, with shallow depressions for eyes. It slowly raised a hand and pressed a flat palm against the window glass. Marcus sat in his truck, his heart pounding against his ribs, but his brain immediately scrambled for a logical explanation. He convinced himself he was watching an old Halloween prank, a joke reel cooked up by a previous owner to scare the staff. Dismissing the impossible as a rational joke provided him with a false sense of security. Because he told himself it was just a prank, he didn't burn the film. He packed it away in a supply closet, guaranteeing the artifact stayed well within reach. That security lasted until the second weekend, when a woman who worked concessions in the 1970s called to warn him. She told Marcus about Elmer Detch, a former owner who vanished in October of 1978, leaving his truck running and his projector still warm. She also gave him the central rule of the last reel. The footage does not show a past event, it displays a future event that is about to occur. Instead of destroying the film, Marcus pulled the canister out of the closet. He shifted his logic, deciding to repeatedly watch the reel so he could study the footage, identify the threat, and prevent the tragedy from happening. Marcus began treating the supernatural like a puzzle to be solved. By viewing the threat as a set of data points to be managed, he found a reason to return to the booth every night, obsessively engaging with the source of the danger in an attempt to outrun it. This 4-panel matrix grid tracks the shifting variables of the film, subject, time, distance, and motion, across Marcus's successive viewings. The reel is not a static recording. It actively adapts to being observed. On his second viewing, the film updated its timeline. The vintage sedans were gone, replaced by Marcus's own truck and his employee Priya's car. The subject variable shifted to target his present-day reality. By the third and fourth viewings, the detail sharpened. A broken clock on the concession wall appeared, always reading exactly 11:47. The framing pushed physically closer to the stand. The time and distance variables were locking on to a highly specific minute and proximity. On the fifth viewing, the camera stopped being a static observer. It began a slow, deliberate first-person crawl, tracing Marcus's exact nightly route from the booth to the concession stand. The motion variable shifted from a warning into an active, tracking path. The reel functions like a tracking system that requires an observer's eye to lock on. By watching the film, Marcus inadvertently provided current data, his car, his clock, and his exact path, allowing the footage to calibrate its arrival to his exact coordinates. By the drive-in's fourth weekend, the lot was packed with over 80 cars. Marcus felt safe. He made sure Priya finished her shift and drove off the property by 11:30 p.m., convinced he had broken the sequence by removing her from the board. At exactly 11:45 p.m., he locked the concession stand door. He checked his watch and exhaled, feeling a profound wave of relief, believing he had beaten the film's predicted timeline. Then, the crickets stopped. The wind died completely. And at 11:47, the door he had just locked slowly opened behind him. In the unnatural silence, he heard slow breathing, followed by the wet, rhythmic sound of a bare palm sliding across glass. His belief that he could manipulate the outcome by studying the film was the very thing that kept him anchored on the property until the fatal minute arrived. 3 days later, Priya found Marcus's truck abandoned in the lot, the engine still idling and the driver's door wide open. Inside, he left a single, unfinished journal entry. This loop reveals the film's actual function. The initial warning triggers a fixation on the future, which dictates the viewer's movements in the present, ensuring they are standing in the exact right place for the end to arrive. The following spring, the county reopened the Rosedale Drive-In under new ownership. Sitting patiently in a supply closet, sealed behind a stack of paper cups, is a film canister marked "Last." The trap in that projection booth relies entirely on human nature. It feeds on the irresistible urge to know exactly what happens next.